don't rush the small beginnings and go too quick into the future, because you could eliminate that small beginning because you spent too much time thinking about the future.
I'm Rhett.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're the house dads. Because we're dads who sell houses.
But we're also husbands, business owners, sports freaks, Christians,
friends, marketing nerds, TV show bingers, and so many more things.
Like so many of you, we're just trying to do it all. We're trying to do it well.
And that's what we're here to talk about.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 38 of the House Dads podcast. Excited to be here with you guys all today. Kind of crazy we're on 38.
38.
You feel like...
Feels like we're 40 in almost, but we're only 38.
Yeah, that is how math works. But what I mean is, like, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Such deep thought here today by Rhett. So welcome in.
Consistency has been great. I will say that. We've only missed 1 week, I think.
Rhett's still, yeah. It's really good.
Since we started?
Yeah. Rhett's still in shock because he just got nominated by like 37 different award categories.
Not true, everybody.
So
not true.
My guy right here, your hostess with the mostest, is a pretty awesome realtor, team leader, the whole thing. And so he just got nominated for a bunch of awards, and I just got done voting for him because he should win them all.
It's 2 awards.
It is 2, but he really should win them both. He's great at what he does. And I was thinking about when preparing for this, it's kind of award season, if you will, for us realtors. And so you other realtors out there, I think that sometimes it's easy, and we have this conversation about the stat sheet a lot.
Yeah.
It's easy to get into that, looking at others, and you didn't get nominated or you didn't get chosen. And, I think it's just easy to fall into that trap this time of the year.
This is where you're starting to see how you stack up to everybody else.
Yeah,
typically
getting a little bit closer to the end of the year, looking at holidays, all that different stuff, and
with awards coming out, you start saying, you can start thinking, well, wait a minute, why? How come I'm not? Then you start looking at the stat sheet. And,
exactly. Yeah. Yes. When you start seeing who gets nominated, you're like, well, how much did they do?
And then you judge them by what they've done or not.
Yeah. Have you been getting these emails after you close a transaction? How was it working with so and so? Do you fill any of those out?
No, I didn't know. I don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's real or not.
I'm big on not clicking things.
Yeah, I agree. Well, if you don't know, if you're a realtor out there watching, you do know probably. But we get these emails after working a transaction with somebody about how it was working with the other agent, and they're like, rate your agent or rate the agent, and peer review and stuff. I'm like, I don't. I'm afraid to do that.
I don't hate the premise of other agents. Like, you can go and see what other agents have said about you, like the general public. Yeah. Because they, if you're a cooperative agent, you're enjoyable to work with. But I'm pretty sure you know more than I, being at the broker level. It's not really, you're not supposed to do that, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk bad about it.
And then I don't know how you would use that for the public and stuff like that. So it's a weird thing. I haven't really looked into it much. But all of that to say, the conversation we're going to be having today is, and you've seen it if you've read the headline and why you're tuning in today, is like, why isn't your real estate business growing? And it's a question that you may be asking yourself while you're kind of in your despair and pity of like, everybody else is nominated, everybody else is winning and succeeding, and in a down market, how are they doing it? And so what Rhett and I want to share with you guys today is some of the things that, like, when we looked at our business and we felt like it wasn't doing as well as it could, if we felt like at that time it wasn't growing, when we self-evaluated, these were some of the reasons why. Yeah. And if you're watching and you're not in real estate, thank you for being here, even knowing the headline. And I'm glad that you're here, because stay tuned, and I promise you that you'll see that the 5 reasons we're talking about today are not just applicable to real estate, that it's applicable to any business that you would be running or being a part of.
Yeah, we've said that from the very beginning, that yes, we are realtors. That's kind of the perception, or the perspective, I should say, that we're coming from. But everything we've ever really spoken about translates across the board to many different industries and whatnot. Right. But yes, we'll be talking about the topic of why your business isn't growing. And I feel like, again, we come from the standpoint of, hey, maybe our business isn't growing. What do we need to look at? So we're not preaching from the mountaintops of like, this is what you got to do. But we're in there in the trenches with you oftentimes of, we need to evaluate why we're not growing in certain areas.
Exactly.
But, the premise of what he said is that, everybody's business is different, right? There's going to be hundreds and thousands of things that, I say thousands is a big number, but different reasons of why your business couldn't be growing.
Right.
We're not going to quite get into the nitty gritty of the nuts and bolts of, hey, your P&L statement is looking like this. Maybe you shouldn't have pulled the trigger on this sort of marketing, or a bad hire or leverage or anything like that. We're not going to be talking about that specifically. We'd be happy to talk to you.
That's what I was just thinking. It was like, hey, that's, spoiler alert.
I love those podcasts that I listen to. I love the nuts and bolts of like
me too.
business and inner workings and stuff. But yes, we're not going to be talking about those quite things. We're going to be talking more on the mindset premise of things. Yeah,
kind of the overarching side of things, where individually we would have to look at all of your facets of your business for us to analyze more of the practical stuff.
Right.
But these things can be overarching. And so let's dive in. The first one we're going to be talking about, the first reason that your business may not be growing, the first reason your real estate sales and production and business may not be growing is because you're not growing.
Oof.
So it really, this is the reason that we started House Dads, is to kind of fill a void in the real estate industry, and kind of this self-help, or this self-improvement category, if you will, that it's not that you improve your life by focusing on your business, focusing on your family, just focusing on these singular things at a time. It's the idea, if you will, that, like, you've heard the phrase, a rising tide rises all ships. Right. And the same thing is true for your life, that if you would rise the tide of your life, which is your growth.
Yeah.
If we did that personally for our life, then all of the areas of our lives would rise with it.
Yeah.
Right. That if you improved who you were, then you would be a better father, you'd be a better business leader, you'd be a better realtor, you'd be a better husband, you'd be all of those things, not just improving your business, not just improving your fatherhood. You'd be able to improve all of these different things together, right? And so what we're hoping to do is that you want to build a business that's not going to outgrow you,
right?
And in building a business just focused on the business and not growing yourself, what could happen is, if you get lucky, you could get a business that's built, but it doesn't last because it outgrew you.
Right.
And so you want to build a business, you want to build a business that's sustainable and that will last. And the true mark of a real reputable and solid business is not one that has a bunch of production and does well for a short period of time, but one that sustains.
Yes.
And so that's what we're talking about, is the way that you would build a business that is sustaining is that you're not just growing your real estate business. You are growing you. I tell people all the time in my office, and when we meet on Tuesdays, it's like, man, maybe you're focused on improving the way that you're calling leads, or focused on the way that you're prospecting, or focused on the right appointments that you're setting. And maybe you got too much focus there, but you're not improving you.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a law of the lid there, that if you're not improving you, then those aspects and those elements of your life are not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to improve along with it.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to some of the earlier episodes we've done on the topics of leadership. Like, you may be thinking, well, it's not really my business, so I don't really have to grow myself because the leader should be doing that. You're a leader regardless of your status, of your label, your job position. You should still be striving to grow in all aspects, because this could be a stepping stone to the next thing that you do. And you've learned so much and grown so much in your position, and you could outgrow it to where you go and you start your own business or whatnot. And again, we're coming from the perspective of real estate. We're technically our own bosses, right? So we do have to have, we should have the mentality of, we got to grow ourselves. Whether we have people under us from a brokerage standpoint or a team standpoint, you should still be growing. I feel like I have a little guilt sometimes that, like, I love to read.
Yeah.
Do I have a lot of time to read? No.
Right.
I know there's audiobooks, but I see other people, just being transparent, reading a lot. And I'm like, oh man, I feel like I got to read, I got to get all this, I got to grow in some aspect, but like,
it's not just that.
No, it's not just reading. I mean, it's so much more. Like you said, it's not just business. There's family, there's parenting, there's all these different things. But even us, no matter what your perception of us is, we're still, we lack that sometimes.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. And And I think this point, you know, and it's the perfect place to start because the other ones kind of stack on top of it. But the reason it's so important is going back to one of our earliest episodes, work-life balance, does it exist?
Yeah.
It doesn't, right? Spoiler alert, but go back and watch the episode and we go into it deeper, that like all the areas of our lives permeate together. And so we can't just expect to be apathetic and accept things that are not tolerable in some areas of our life and expect other areas of our lives to just skyrocket through the roof.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we have to raise the standard in all the areas of our life if we want to raise the standard.
Yeah.
So if you want to raise the standard in your real estate business, raise the standard in the other areas of your life and watch it happen as well.
I know growth does not happen on accident. Right. So you may have heard of these rare stories of like this person accidentally falling into success and their business exploding. Like,
right.
I'd have to believe somewhere behind the scenes there is some growth in the sense of their own, their own well-being, their own, personal foundation.
100%.
But growth, it does not happen on accident. And,
right.
and you can play a big part in your growth if you have a desire and you are willing to grow yourself.
Exactly. So first point is maybe your real estate business isn't growing because you're not growing. You're not growing yourself. And the second point is maybe your real estate business isn't growing because you're looking too far ahead.
Yeah.
Right. When I got started, kind of like Rhett just mentioned, I saw a lot of success early. And so the first couple of months, I felt really, really good about my real estate business. And I started looking too far ahead.
Yeah.
And so the next 6 months after the first couple of months were terrible. Because
you real quick. Huh?
Yeah, I was looking way too far ahead. And I think what it is sometimes our lack of growth in the present is because we're stuck in a fantasy about the future.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Like you read Sell It Like Sirhan, or you go to Bold, or you go to some seminar or some class that fires you up and pumps you up about the potential of having $1 million month after month after month and how you can do it, but you neglect the hard work and the dedication daily that it takes for that 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, 12-month goal.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to be focused more on the present than the future. And so maybe you're just looking too far ahead and not focused on what it really takes today.
Yes.
To make the change that it's going to take 3 and 6 in a year from now.
Yeah. Don't hear what we're not saying. You definitely want to look ahead. We'll talk about that a little bit. But that has to be kind of like there's calculations in the sense of, hey, if this is the goal you want for the future, you calculate what you got to do for the year, for the month, for the week, for the day. And you do need to track and look at and pay attention to those daily, monotonous, just like boring activities because they lead you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Don't start thinking too far and neglect those little things.
And it's so true in this business. I think it's so true in the real estate business, even more than I think other businesses, because our transactions take as long as they do, 30, maybe 60 days sometimes. And so that you can't be so far focused that you're losing sight of today, because if you're losing sight of a day, you're really losing sight of 30 and 60 days from now.
Yeah.
And so the time it takes to make up that time that you lost in the future is a lot of time. So you can't afford to lose it, and you can't afford to be in this fantasy land. And I think that a story that reminds me of it too is from a whole company perspective is we were doing pretty good with our brokerage, and this is when my dad was still real involved, and we were kind of looking at the next level of expansion in our office in Baton Rouge, and what do we do expanding here and stuff. And so we started playing around with the idea of expanding to New Orleans.
Okay.
And so we got set up in the New Orleans board and really started to spend a lot of time there, started to take on some more clients there and invest in some marketing there. And then we started to look for an office there. Starts to look at all these different offices and found an incredible office in the Capital One building in downtown Baton Rouge to lease. In downtown New Orleans to lease. Signed a lease on it. And the idea was that I would spend 2 days a week driving down there to start hiring and recruiting agents to kind of just resemble what we've built in Baton Rouge and build it in New Orleans.
Right.
And man, in hindsight, and quickly we learned that we were running before we'd ever even
ready
walked.
for it, huh?
Yeah, we weren't ready for it. And it's like, man, we were doing okay in Baton Rouge. But we really hadn't even built Baton Rouge to a level that was duplicatable enough that we could even implement something that was like it in New Orleans.
Yep.
And so the point is we got to crawl before we walk, right? You got to walk before you run. And don't despise the small beginnings. Don't rush the small beginnings and go too quick into the future, because you could eliminate that small beginning. Because you spent too much time thinking about the future.
Speaking of looking too far ahead, speaking to you realtors specifically, how many times have you spent your commission that you haven't even earned yet?
Come on, bro.
You're like, all right, I got this in the bank. No, you don't.
Talk to somebody.
Things change. I mean, if you look so far ahead, like you're talking about, I mean, look at COVID. Look at all these things that can be thrown your way to totally derail you thinking too far ahead, and you weren't paying attention to the daily things to counteract that.
Yeah.
So yes, number 2, you're looking too far ahead. That is why your business is not growing. Number 3, you're gonna be like, wait, what the heck? You just told us. It's a little contrary, but you're not looking far enough ahead. All right. It's funny that I have this topic because I do fall into this category a lot. I don't plan, like, there's a conference next February for our coaching organization. And people are asking me, like, are you going? I'm like, I don't know. It's February.
Yeah.
I'm talking about September right now.
Right.
But yeah, you're not looking too far ahead. And, this is different for everybody. But I personally do get really caught sometimes in the daily, like, just small activities that I'm not thinking, all right, what am I even shooting for here?
Right.
Like, I need to be thinking, the coaching organization I'm in, they're big on, hey, what's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan?
That's tough.
What's your thinking 10-year plan? I'm like, that overwhelms me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I don't even know what I'm doing next February, let alone 10 years from now.
Right.
But sometimes your lack of growth is because you're so focused on those daily things that you're not paying attention to, like, what am I even shooting for? You really got to sometimes take a step back, look at it from a broad perspective, and think, all right, this is my goal for the year. What's 3 years? What's 5 years? So that requires, and sometimes you gotta think about systems and the processes you have. Like, we've talked about this before too, and this does get a little bit into the nuts and bolts, but like, if you do want to grow, you probably shouldn't wait until you are hitting this, like, threshold of underserving clients and not giving value to your agents to make a hire or to implement a system.
Right.
Do it beforehand and think, all right, in 3 years, I want us to look like this. So maybe by the end of this year, we should have this process implemented.
Right.
Right. So that way we don't have, and look, there's some things you really can't plan for sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have those growing pains, but you can do your best to prepare for them as much as you can.
That's right.
That's
right.
So you got to think a little more further ahead
100%.
rather than just, all right, today or even this month.
Yeah. You're not going to be ready for everything.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to prepare and use those times where you are looking into the future enough. And the thing is like, this isn't overlapping for everybody. That the reason that your real estate business may not be growing is not that it's going to be, you're not doing 1 through 5.
Right.
The reason that 2 and 3 are the complete opposite of each other is because maybe you're just doing 2 and you're not doing 3.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe you need to do 3 and you're not doing 2. And so that's why both of them are here, because at different times and different seasons in our business, we have both done both or not done them.
Right.
And so it's important to have a fair, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, to have a fair balance of looking far enough in the future, but not losing yourself there.
Right.
Right. So we got to be careful with that. And the fourth reason that maybe you're not growing is because you're just looking to get by and you're not looking to get ahead. Right. And it's kind of just, I've got enough mentality and mindset. And I think that, and I gotta be careful how I say this, but I think that it's plaguing a lot of the agents in our industry. That another way to word it would be like, this is just the amount of money that I got to make to get by.
Yep.
Or this is just like, we are putting this monetary goal on the transaction, putting the monetary goal on our business, and then it fuels all of our decisions and it fuels all of our thoughts and it fuels everything that we do. It's that oh, I got the paycheck, I'm good.
Yep.
I have to pay my bills, and I get that pressure, and I get that stress, and I get the motivation. Like I wouldn't do I wouldn't do what I do if I don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. Like I do what I do for the money, right? But it's not my it's not my primary goal for the monetary.
Yeah.
Right. It's not my primary purpose for the monetary. What I'm thinking about when getting ahead, like we have to start thinking about not just getting by, but getting ahead, about building relationships,
Right.
building systems, building people that are going to last, not just a transaction, a check in the bank, and then on to the next one, because that's an exhausting way to build. And that's a way to build that I think is just getting by, and it's not getting ahead.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have their own like convictions, and it's up to you to have discernment on what you're in this for, what your goals are. I think we're just kind of talking about the mentality that, you know, I don't even know if this is relevant, but I heard a quote earlier this week, and it was like, money can't buy you happiness, but poverty can't buy you anything. Yeah. So, you know, monetary, again, we're not talking about just that, but yeah, like just the mentality of like striving towards something for greatness, for excellence. Right. But yeah, you got to have your own convictions, because my goals are different than his goals, and you know, everybody has their own stuff. Yeah, and so like what we're talking about when it means that you're not growing, or when you're asking yourself, okay, well maybe I'm not growing because I'm thinking about not getting ahead enough, is because a lot of times the reason you're not growing is because you're thinking about, I just need to pay my bills at the end of the month. Yeah. Right. And I'm telling you that's just, if that is your focus, that it's going to be really hard to grow a business. Right. Yeah. Now, again, the reason I do what I do is to pay my bills and to support my family. Right. But there's got to be a bigger purpose attached to it about getting ahead, man, that's going to have to fuel that. And it's going to change what you do on the daily, which ends up impacting and impacts changes the future that you're actually talking about. And I think the same mindset that falls in this is like just accepting that, oh, well, I'm just getting by because this is just the market that we're in. Right? Like, oh, well, the numbers are what the numbers are. And it shows what last month, Greater Baton Rouge home sales were down 30%. It's like, yep, that is exactly what you're going to accept. Yeah. Right? Like if that's, it just is what it is. I'm just going to be getting by. Yes, you can give yourself some grace that, yeah, maybe you may not be selling as much as you were before because, you know, that is what the market is, but don't just allow that to just be acceptable and be okay. You know what I'm saying? We haven't, we're not to the point in parenting where we have this conversation with our kids, but you probably have said it maybe in high school. But how many times have you like flunked a test and your parents are getting on to you and you're like, well, everybody else in the class got, you know,
yes, it's like, this is what it is.
My dad was pretty big on that. He's like, I don't care what everybody else, I know what you are capable of, and you're limiting yourself because you're putting yourself in the boat of everybody else.
Rhett's dad.
I mean, sometimes he went a little too hard on that, but you get my picture. That's another point of like, if you have that mindset of like everybody else, I mean, just kind of fitting yourself in that mold, guess what? You're not going to grow. You're almost limiting and capping yourself.
That's a really good point, man. I want to reiterate that and drill that home. Like from a real estate perspective, don't lump yourself in with the group to say, oh, well, everybody else is doing bad, so I'm just going to do bad. No, stand out, be different, and look for ways that you can grow, because you may be negating or neglecting your growth by just saying, oh, well, this is what everybody else is going through, so I'm just going to go through it as well. Be different. Yeah. And that leads us perfectly to this next one.
Yes. I'm pretty passionate about this one.
Yeah. That's why this is all you.
Number 5, the fifth one, the final one. You're imitating and you're not innovating. I have from day one, and granted, I love like marketing and being creative and stuff, but probably a little too soon I did this. I was a little too creative. But, you know, be you. You're your own person, especially in real estate. There's over 4,000 licensed agents, I think, here, as of now, just in our area. Yeah. Everyone's sometimes, I say everyone, people are copying people. Yeah. They're like, all right, I'm seeing, and don't get me wrong, you've heard the quote, success leaves clues, right? You want to do things that successful people do, but there's certain things that you do oftentimes that are just, you're just copying, you're imitating, you're not innovating and trying to take it a step above.
My favorite is when people post memes and they're like stealing in the comments and then take it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. It's like, you didn't have, it's not even that good to begin with. Yeah. But you see other people doing it. Like have a mind of your own, do your own thing. and know what works for you. It may not work for Brandon does his own thing. I'll do my own thing. Of course, we can I would say get some inspiration from people, but make it your own and focus on what you're good at and do those things. It's funny. I actually gave an example this weekend. This Labor Day just passed recently, and man, I got probably around 11 a.m. I got like 5 emails, these generic Happy Labor Day emails from lenders or title companies.
They're all the same.
They're literally all the same because they use the same stock program. I looked, it said Happy Labor Day, Rhett, Happy Labor Day, Rhett. And they just say, hope you're having a great, it's like, and it has their brand. Like, it's just so cringe to me that they think, wow, this is going to work. This is going to get me business.
Yeah.
So I kind of vented a little bit on social media and said, look, I'm going to get that, and I'm going to see that you're doing what everyone else is doing. I'm unsubscribing. Guess what? I'm not going to see anything else you're doing now.
Right.
Because I just unsubscribed from you.
Right.
Why not put your own spin on it? Make the subject line even just, something worth clicking, and the body of it can be like you, personable, relatable.
Right.
But you can't just imitate all the time. You have to innovate. You have to make it yours, because that's, people want to use who they know, who they like, and who they trust.
Right.
And achieving that know is pretty easy. The like category, that's what you really can do to innovate. And of course, that goes towards people trusting you to use you.
That's right.
So be you, man.
Yep.
And gals.
Yeah. And girls. So it's a good point, man. And the key to innovating and not just imitating is vision.
Yeah.
And so you got to have a vision for your business. And so that's connecting it back to point 4, that maybe the reason your business isn't growing is because you don't have that bigger purpose.
Yep.
That it's just, I just got to get the paycheck.
Right.
And so if you attach your vision, your business to a bigger purpose, then vision will start to come, and then watch you start to imitate and not innovate. Watch you start to innovate and not imitate, and your business is going to start to grow just like that.
It's going to 10X.
Yeah. That's what we're all here to do, is just 10X your pod, 10X your business. So anything else you want to add?
No, man. I feel like I just kind of went off a little bit. So
no, I think it was great, man. I think hopefully that was helpful for you. I think what I would like you to do in closing, we just always like to leave you with a little bit of a challenge. So if you're watching this, and I think that many of you, if you're watching this, you're a realtor, and you may have came initially looking for practical things that you can implement. Like, I want to see what Rhett does. I want to see what Brandon does in his business, and how has he grown it to this and everything like that. This is what we've done, right? So I want to challenge you. Do you have a vision for your business? Right. So ask yourself, do you have a vision for your business? Is it attached to a bigger purpose? And if not, or maybe you have had one, but you've kind of loosely, you just lost it, and it's just kind of gotten loose, and it's not tight and concise. Redefine it. Get it tight. Get it concise. I feel like that was a rap lyric.
Yeah.
But
get it right.
Get it
tight.
Get it concise, and develop that passion, that vision. And then what you start to do is you're going to start innovating and start creating and doing new things that nobody else is doing, and growth is going to come to your business. So I'm excited to see it happen. I'd love to hear about it.
Yes.
And that's one thing that he and I are passionate about, is helping people individually. And so if you're a realtor, it doesn't matter what team you're on. It doesn't matter what brokerage you're at. We would love to help you. Right. So reach out to us individually through the House Dads podcast, or on our separate social media accounts. If there's something we can help you with, and we're not just looking to poach you. Okay. I promise you that. Okay. Brokers, you can send this to your agents.
Yes, they are safe.
Without any concern, without any worry. We want to help. Right. That's the whole reason that we did this. So if you're showing this at a team meeting, or you're showing this at your office or to your brokerage, your people are safe. I hope that they grow. And if there's enough to go around. So I hope we all grow together.
Absolutely. And if you do ever have questions on like the nuts and bolts of things, like we love talking about that too.
Yep.
It's kind of vague to say, get a vision. If you want to nail down what that vision looks like, what you need to be thinking about and shooting for, we're here for that as well.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for being here with us today. We'll catch you next time on the House Dads.
See you later.